Tales of Symphonia originally released for the Nintendo GameCube. The following year, the game was released on PS2 only in Japan and saw a ton of changes that would be the start of a domino effect as all future versions would build off of the PS2 version's changes. Meanwhile, Symphonia's success spawned a Wii-exclusive sequel, Tales of Symphonia Dawn of the New World. We'll be discussing the sequel because on PS3 we saw Tales of Symphonia Chronicles, which had a really nice collector's edition celebrating the game's legacy and included both games. Afterwards, the game was released on Steam, and now, almost 20 years later from the original release, Tales of Symphonia Remastered has been released for the 8th gen of consoles. Tales of Symphonia marks the series' first full 3D entry and is one of the most beloved games in the franchise. It's a really good entry into the series as well, so in this video we'll take a look at how the content, gameplay, polish, visuals, and audio changed over time, and determine if any version post-GameCube warrants your attention. This was one of the more overwhelming games to cover, so this time I want to start the video with thanking those that support the channel and give a shout out to the speedrunning community and JModa16 who vetted this video and practically co-wrote it to a certain degree and provided me with a few clips to use as well. With that out of the way, let's get started. So to start things off, we'll talk about the GameCube version and how it differs overseas. The opening theme song was removed and replaced with an instrumental song, and while dubbed in English, skits weren't dubbed and still auto-progressed depending on the Japanese voice acting. Aside from the PAL version running slower due to poor PAL conversion, the PAL version also has a different font. While the Japanese version has these things, the North America and PAL versions removed renaming party members with the rename gem, related arts, figurine descriptions, sound test, and progressive scan. The game on GameCube has minor visual glitches, various skips such as for the casually notorious Ymir Forest, and some handy strats if you're aware of them beforehand, some of which remain in every version. A really unique one found in every version is if you land a unison attack on the same frame a boss deals mortal damage, the damage is redirected at the boss. One exclusive glitch example is the proxy glitch, where you start a combo and buffer a C-stick tech, but before the tech comes out, you'll pause and swap that tech with another character's ability, letting any party member use an ability they aren't supposed to. Also, the Japanese version had an item dupe glitch for morphable items using a rune bottle. So, since we're gonna be comparing the GameCube version to many higher resolution versions, we should discuss how the GameCube version utilizes double imaging to create a focus effect in the middle of the screen. When upscaling the GameCube version on a modern display, the game will always look blurry due to this technique. This blur isn't seen in any other version either, but it can be removed with a gecko code. Next, we're taking the 2-disc GameCube original and we're porting it to the PS2. The PS2 version added a new theme song from the same band and credits music, 2 new anime sequences, 2 titles and 1 costume for everyone, several new events with some involving more backstory on Mythos, and the post-game dungeon was extended from 15 floors to 20 floors with 6 new bosses, and Hell Knight moved from 10 to 5. Casino minigames are also playable now, and with them come prizes and unlockables like a new title and a costume for Rain. A part of the Devil's Arm quest is also here, and there's a cutscene viewer to be unlocked too. Gameplay-wise, the PS2 version has 8 new Mystic Arts so that everyone has at least one, and they have cut-ins now, 11 new unison attacks, 8 new techs, and 6 new elemental variations of moves. Balance-wise, a few bosses were repositioned while most were given new attacks in hard and/or mania difficulty. Other minor adjustments were made too, like all divides don't work on the boss tied to acquiring the Devil's Arm anymore. Moreover, the power of some attacks were nerfed, some more befitting of nerfs than others. The unison attack gauge fills faster now as well. Other changes include new entries in the synopsis are now put at the top, unison attack gauge now glows when full, and the camera in battle better accommodates multiplayer. It's also worth noting that the Earth Dragon now drops 1,000 gold instead of 10,000 gold, and this is known for being an awesome point to grind gold at this point in the game. On the flip side, the Gold Dragon drops 8,300 gold, but that's later in the game. This version also handles spell canceling differently. Spell canceling is a hidden mechanic that enables you to cancel the end lag of attacks in order to keep combos going that you wouldn't be able to otherwise, and mastering this adds a fun level of depth to the characters that it works with. However, on PS2 and onwards, how early you can cancel a spell is based on how many times you've used it it, so spells aren't viable for this like they were before unless it's got 999 uses. And in the PS2 version, recruiting Kratos and Flanor doesn't work like before and now requires him to be in your top 3 highest affection rated party members, whereas before it was automatic. Load times are also significantly longer on PS2. Some bugs were fixed while others remain, like there's a handful of skips in the GameCube version that were patched. The proxy glitch we discussed still works though. The Ymir Forest skip was actually made even easier to pull off, and now it doesn't require a dark bottle. There were also glitches to learn both S and T techs, get the Gigolo title for Zelos early, and make the red light green light minigame significantly easier, but those were all patched. The major sticking point to this version of Symphonia is that the game now runs at 30 FPS instead of 60. Most of the game accommodates the change given 1 frame of difference, though it's noted that the frame data differences in text differ more than that. Otherwise, the frame rate has been a point of contention simply because 60 FPS feels more responsive for an action game. The PS2 version also has some occasional frame drops like in the field. What's more is that the cell shading and outlines of characters are handled differently, and environment textures are significantly lower quality. Other visual changes were made as well. Skits are more expressive thanks to shaking and movement not seen prior, angel wings are now more opaque, Sword Dancer's field skull is now white, Sheena's summons now have cut-ins, there's new post-battle animations, and the dark rooms in the Temple of Lightning are much darker. The GameCube references like in the Silveron base were replaced, however this GameCube in the background of Meltokio is still in every version of the game. Like we said, there's a new opening theme, and with the new opening theme, the use of the original song in-game was changed too. There's some new sound effects as well, and Zelos has a combo voice line now. Meanwhile, Tales of Symphonia Dawn of the New World releases and is known as a low-budget and divisive sequel. In the North American and PAL versions, you could load cleared Symphonia data from your GameCube memory card, granting you bonus items and gold, and you could also set 8 motion control shortcuts instead of only 4. Meanwhile, the PAL version exclusively holds a gallery mode unlocked from beating the game that has a skit library and image library. The PAL version also holds more new cosmetic head accessories. Next up is Tales of Symphonia Chronicles for the PlayStation 3, containing both Symphonia games. The collection includes both of Symphonia's Japanese opening themes, dual audio, new cameo costumes from the other Tales games, and the PAL version Dawn of the New World's gallery mode and cosmetic head accessories. And we'll notice that the font in Symphonia is closer to that of the GameCube PAL version's font. Symphonia also retains the prior Japan-only sound test, and in Dawn of the New World there's only 4 shortcuts again. Reportedly, the Japanese version still lets you rename characters, but with the North American release of Chronicles, no version of the game lets you rename strategies anymore going forward. There were many bug fixes seen, including the prior proxy glitch. There's also new glitches too though, like in the North American version there's an exploit to map mystic arts like regular arts, or in the overworld the compass needle doesn't move anymore. And also, Colette's outfit now clips through her body. There's also very few instances where due to dual audio, character dialogue is missing. So due to the English version trying to match the number of text boxes in the Japanese version, we result in this.
我が名はレミエル。マナの血族の娘コレットを新たな巫女として天に導くクルシスの天使。
I am Remiel. I am an angel of judgment. I am here to guide Colette, daughter of the Mana lineage, on her journey to heaven as the 7th chosen. I am Remiel. I am an angel of judgment.
And sometimes the wrong character will say the wrong line.
Are you still up?
So the collection offers both games at 720p with higher resolution textures. There's also updated 2D icon assets. Dawn of the New World retains its 60 FPS, though the last few boss fights have frame rate drops, but a few of the game's pre-rendered cutscenes are also now in real time. There were also a handful of cutscene camera angles that were added or altered to accommodate the new 16:9 aspect ratio, though of course there were some oversights. Meanwhile, the cell shading effects have been toned down even further, especially in regards to everyone's clothing, which takes away heavily from the intended look. And then outlines are really faint. Sometimes they'll show up depending on the background, or you'll see some clear outline. The one exception to all this is weirdly weapons, which consistently have thick outlines. With the PS2 version's new attacks comes new voice lines in English, or rather unused lines, as almost all of the original cast was recast in Dawn of the New World. Regardless, the new lines are quiet and different quality, and in some cases, the moves' names differ from what the characters say out loud.
This is gonna be a piece of cake.
Shining Bind!
And while the quality wasn't consistent to begin with, English dialogue in general is lower quality than in the GameCube version.
Afterwards, Mythos the hero formed a pact with the goddess Martel to seal away the Desians whom caused the war. Afterwards, Mythos the hero formed a pact with the goddess Martel to seal away the Desians whom caused the war.
Now we'll briefly separate the PC version here, which is based on the PS3 version of the game. This version used to be very buggy, but as of September 2016, most of the exclusive issues in this version were fixed, though not all of them. Like, people still report having trouble getting some achievements like Zelos Gigolo title achievement to trigger. This version even offers stronger outlines than the other versions thanks to updates, though the cell shading still isn't close to its original look. Meanwhile, the legacy issues of the PS3 version are still present, such as the very few cases of missing or wrong dialogue and low volume for newly recorded lines. There's even exclusive instances to the PC version where dialogue comes out of the wrong characters, and it's notable that it occurs during a pretty emotional scene later in the game. And while functional, it's still a bit of an aged port. The TOS fix isn't required these days, but people still use it for the 4K texture support and PlayStation and GameCube button icons. And now the most recent version of the game is Tales of Symphonia Remastered for the Switch, PS4, and Xbox One, which are based on the PS3 version. You can now skip pre-rendered cutscenes and skits. There's an eye icon over enemies that are running at you. If you save in a location, your save now tells you where you were. Hiding skit titles doesn't hide the button icon as well anymore. There's a menu option to go back to the title screen. You have to save any changes made to options now. Equipping EX gems of opposing types now fully swaps the strike to technical and vice versa. Character menu portraits now reflect story conditions. Being near a part of a town with shops now indicates which shops are there. Going near a base asks you if you want to enter it instead of teleporting first, though that's debatable if it's desired. And navigating the elemental cargo ship was made easier. Additionally, related abilities and figurine descriptions are now in every version. Reportedly though, renaming characters is still exclusive to the Japanese version. And now we'll talk about bugs, and as we talk about these, please keep in mind that a lot of this info may become outdated when the remaster receives updates. The legacy bugs of the PS3 version are almost all intact, missing voice lines, quiet English lines on the PS2 arts, the compass not moving, and so on. The glitch to map Mystic Arts was fixed though, but funny enough, the proxy glitch is back. The Steam version's issues are not here, but neither are its thicker outlines. Now, in terms of having new bugs, this remaster is full of them. All three versions feature occasional T-posing enemies, Rain's bunny ears are missing on her costume, rare occasions of missing mouths, and music not playing during loading, and thus the beginning of songs are skipped when the game finishes loading, which is exacerbated in the Switch version because it has the worst load times of any version of the game, including the PS2 version. Additionally, with the PS4 version, and even more often with the Xbox version, there's just weird occasional loading hangups. The PS4 version seems to have less bugs than the Switch and Xbox versions have weird and what I would consider plainly broken lighting, though I've also seen the PS4 version occasionally have this too. Meanwhile, the biggest issue in the Switch version is that frame buffer effects are totally missing, and this is whenever the game pauses a still image for the background of, say, the pause menu, shopping menus, skits, and the iconic glass shatter transition, which is just totally absent. The Switch version also has pretty severe frame rate issues depending on what's going on as well. Additionally, the Cyclone attack on Switch has the appearance of healing wind and does water damage for some reason, and this in particular isn't a glitch I don't think, but there's also a fight that has a camera zoomed out on Switch but it's not zoomed out like that on Xbox or PS4. You benefit from the zoom out, so maybe they'll zoom it out on the other versions later. This remaster features AI upscale textures, reportedly higher poly models. For characters, the upscaling liked to turn shading on them black, and some foliage textures still look pretty rough. Also, texture seams are more present than before, and weirdly, the Xbox's opening was re-rendered and has a hint more compression to it. Otherwise, the game is 1080p 30 everywhere, though Switch lacks anti-aliasing and undocked at 720p, though this doesn't prevent its performance issues. And since I noticed input lag on the Xbox version, I decided to measure, and found that while the PS4 version on PS5 of course has 3 to 4 frames of input lag, the Switch version had around 5 frames, and the Xbox version on Series X has around 6 frames of input lag. Tales of Symphonia discussion primarily revolves around its frame rate, and that's fair, so those that commented GameCube version before my intro finished, I can't really do much about that. Though, as we've seen, there is more to the discussion once we look past the frame rate. You can't go wrong with the GameCube original version at all, and preferring the other versions really depends if you determine the extra content and quality of life changes to outweigh the cons, as maybe they won't be a big deal to you. Don't be surprised if this video pops up again once the remaster is updated, though till then we do well to be aware of the current state of the remaster and keep our fingers crossed that Bandai Namco can get the ball rolling and give Symphonia the treatment that its legacy warrants. And that wraps it up for this port review. It is now time to look forward to the Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection. Afterwards, I'll hopefully have time to get to my backlog of reviews, but either way, there's a lot to look forward to on the channel. So till next time, thank you all for watching.